Wednesday edition of the NBA Slate Starter. I'm Eric, alongside my buddy Renpak, and we're going to break down Wednesday's 8-game NBA DFS slate. F Danny Green again. Hate that guy. Why is he doing this to me? So, DraftKings, we had the absolute nutties with this Heat Philly game, and it was fantastic. And I stacked it up every way that I could. Ran it back with Joel Embiid. Thought he was really the only other piece. Had a little bit of a little bit of Maxey, but man, Danny Green and Mike Scott too. Why do they hate me so much? What did I do that they wouldn't do this yesterday? But Renpak, how you doing, buddy? How were the slates for you?
The slate's still going on. There's a pretty interesting game being played in between the Pacers and Warriors, where I have a fair share of Steph Curry and Draymond Green, and some Sabonis as well. But man, that Heat Sixer game was a thrilling game. It came down to a bunch of fouls at the end, a lot of foul trouble with the rosters full of 8 guys on both teams, where we saw guys play north of 40 minutes. Gabe Vincent really brought home the minimum salary play lineups, and Precious Achiuwa did the same thing as well. But KD and Jokic in a phenomenal matchup where they went back and forth all night, carried lineups to the top of the leaderboard on FanDuel, where we got an interesting finish headed up over there as well.
Yeah, I hope if you checked out my NBA Slate Starter article, I write one of those every single day as well at the Awesemo.com site. And on the very last, the bottom part, I always put in like my final thoughts for the DFS slate, where I kind of just like list off a bunch of things or like random thoughts. The very last paragraph was just play Kevin Durant. Just play him because he's Kevin Durant. And there are just certain players today between Jokic, between Embiid, between Durant. Like it seemed like there were so many studs that we've kind of been waiting to pop in some of these spots. Like if you played LeBron, AD, any other studs but those three, like you were in a world of hurt because there were some massive fantasy games put up alongside that Heat and Philly game on DraftKings. Over on FanDuel, we'll see how the chips fall. Not having that game is going to make things very, very interesting. But you're not here to listen to us talk about Tuesday. You're here to hear our thoughts about Wednesday. So we're going to jump right into point guard, and we're going to go position by position like we always do. But before we get started, please just get down to that bottom bar, click subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell so you know when all of the stuff goes live over here at Awesemo. And it just helps us out a bunch and continues to be the thing to keep the lights on. So thank you for your support, and let's get to it. So starting over at point guard, we're going to go on FanDuel to start off today because there are positions there that kind of matter. In a lot of ways, there's less multi-positional eligibility. So over on FanDuel, Luka Doncic sits up at 11-3. We're going to see a team that we know more than likely Kristaps Porzingis is going to be back, considering he would have played on Monday. Make sure you check that news early and often because that game locks. It's the first lock time at 7 o'clock on the East Coast, 4 o'clock on the West Coast. So if that game doesn't go, you got to get it out of your lineup. So make sure you also catch the live before lock show. That'll lead you right up until that tip off. But Luka Doncic, 11,300, huge ceiling. We know who that is. Damian Lillard, 9,200, just continues to be a guy that you know is going to have a ceiling, but he's actually listed as probable, so no issue with that ankle there. And then Trae Young, 8,800. We're finally starting to see that price tag come down a little bit to account for a little bit lower usage. Not really having those crazy big ceiling outputs like we saw in previous years. Just talk to me a little bit about this top end of point guard.
Yeah, the top end of point guard over there on FanDuel has definitely gotten some. It's obviously top heavy with Luka. Dame Lillard in a very favorable Sacramento matchup. They did blow out Sacramento a few nights ago. Lillard only played 30 minutes, put up 33 fantasy points last time out against them. Trae Young against Phoenix. I like Trae Young last time. In 25 minutes, he put up 44 fantasy points. Kind of went overlooked because that game blew out against the Sixers, but he was very productive in his 25 minutes. I'm going to like Trae Young quite a bit because he's 8,800. It makes for nice savings and pivot off of those top two guys over there. Karis LeVert now has point guard eligibility on FanDuel, which is really nice. 8,000 playing a Knicks matchup. He did come off the bench today, but he did still play 36 minutes. So I wasn't too concerned when he came off the bench. I know we had this conversation last night where how do I like LeVert? I like LeVert off the bench just because he might get a little bit more run without KD. I do expect him to still close games out for them. That's pretty interesting to start off the top end of the FanDuel point guards, but I think Lamela Ball is still priced a little too low. What's your opinion on that?
So I picked him up. I have a couple year-long teams. So my dad and I have this father-son year-long team that we've done for 15 years. 15 years I've been doing fantasy basketball. And Lamela Ball was our first pickup after week 1. I kind of saw that coming a little bit, but it's weird because in DFS, I've just kind of been off because his popularity just kept going up, up, up. But I'm just kind of buying in. I would rather that tag go up to like 7, 8K, sit up in these higher tiers where you can play him and maybe get a little bit reduced ownership on him, because some of these ceiling games, I mean, he is just filling up the stat sheet. I can't believe how great his rebounding numbers are. That's really the thing that really popped with me with him. I'm shocked that a guy that's that small and that light, not that he's short, but somebody that just is 180 pounds soaking wet, can get up and board the way that he does. I mean, just massive, massive rebounding numbers. Working our way down here kind of into this mid-range. So I guess we should also touch base on the fact that Kyrie Irving's got that O tag, and we have an entire week of the artist as he likes to call himself, Kyrie Irving, going to be sitting out for Brooklyn. So I like that Karis LeVert gets that eligibility over at point guard. That kind of makes it a little bit more interesting because at shooting guard, he was such a plug and play for so long without Kyrie in the lineup. But just talk to me a little bit about Kyrie Irving and what's going on with this situation as we move forward. And also, what can you expect from the Brooklyn Nets going forward? Is Kevin Durant just somebody that we need to play every single game? Because at 10-1 over on FanDuel, he's going to be somebody who's going to be very, very popular coming off today.
Yeah, so everyone was like, where in the world is Kyrie Irving? Kyrie Irving was spotted on a Zoom call ahead of the Nets game earlier today. The Manhattan District Attorneys had a group Zoom call, and Kyrie Irving was spotted on that. So I guess we have a Kyrie Irving spotting, but it'll be some time before we get to play him in DFS, and let alone the Nets can see him play on their own team, as he's still away for personal reasons. We'll see how that ends up. In the mid-tier, yeah. Over there on DraftKings, hopping over, the mid-tier has some nice options as well. Darren Fox is 7,400. I like that quite a bit against Portland. He showed great. He was fantastic. I don't know if you saw the posterization dunk he had to seal the game last time against Indiana. Mm-hmm. One of the best dunks of the year so far. I like Chris Paul at 7,200. Chris Paul is playing pretty well. I know he's just been a solid mid-30s, high 30s fantasy guy. 7,200. That floor is really nice against Atlanta. I'm going to like Chris Paul right now, the way things stand. But going all the way down, there's no Lonzo Ball tomorrow. Mikhail Alexander-Walker is $3,100. Mm-hmm. I do expect him to get in the mid-20 minutes, and I do think he'll end up being one of the more popular value options with that salary. $3,100, point guard, shooting guard eligibility on DK. We're going to have to consider Mikhail Alexander-Walker for sure. And his cousin, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander Walker.
Are they
kind
cousins?
Came down to earth.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah, they're
For
cousins,
real?
yeah.
Sick. God, Rinpack, you know everything. Keep going. Sorry. I had no idea.
Yeah. SGA playing the Lakers. A little tough matchup. He was pretty disappointing against the Spurs today. Only put up, I think, 31 fantasy points. But I think I'll avoid SGA against the Lakers. Any other options on DK that specifically stand out to you? How about Christian James McCollum coming in at...
The one guy I did want to bring up was Mikhail Alexander-Walker. Team preseason. This guy has popped in the last couple preseasons. He's somebody that just... he can fill it up when he gets going. The little guy, he's got some games. So with Lonzo Ball out, when that news came across, him and all of my Pelicans got so much more interesting. Again, not a fan, just a fan. So I'm looking forward to being able to jam a bunch of them tomorrow. Otherwise, just kind of looking down on the bottom on DraftKings, it's pretty gross. It's pretty hairy down there. 4,500 on FanDuel. Austin Rivers is playing big minutes. It's kind of got like a different role. 37 minutes in the last game against Charlotte. Only 19.3 FanDuel points. So I'm happy to go back to the well on him there. Just all those guys that are just getting all this crazy run for New York until somebody like Alec Burks or somebody gets back and gets healthy. I'm not sure. I don't think he's scheduled to come back for a while still with that ankle injury. So Austin Rivers, he's another guy who's a decent enough punt. Anybody else can keep ourselves moving? Yeah, 5,300 on DraftKings. No interest in Austin Rivers, letting it be known.
I do think it's time to move on to the shooting guard position when we start talking about Austin Rivers. What do you think?
I would agree. Yeah, no, I'm a sick person. Here we are. CJ McCollum, 9,200 over on FanDuel. He's just a bonkers individual at the moment. I like the staggered minutes going back and forth with Dame Lillard. That whole Stotts comment about like they want him to be an all-star, CJ McCollum to be an all-star this season. So many reasons to be bullish on him still going forward. 9,200. I keep not playing him. I keep not playing him. I keep regretting it. So don't be Eric and just play CJ McCollum in some lineups. Have a little bit there. I'm going to try to get myself on it too. Paul George, 9K. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander coming off of a super disappointing game today in a San Antonio matchup that I was pretty excited about, that game being a little bit contrarian, and had a little bit more pieces than I would have liked coming off of that when really Patty Mills was the only guy. Him and LaMarcus Aldridge were kind of the only two you maybe wanted from that entire game. But Devin Booker, 7,800 against Atlanta. That's really where my eyes kind of go to, and it's going to be popular over on FanDuel. But let's cover a little bit of these shooting guards up top.
Yeah, up top, obviously, we got CJ, Paul George, SGA. My favorite is probably going to be CJ. We saw what CJ did against Sacramento in 29 minutes, put up 50 fantasy points. I like that. And then I think I'm going to be off SGA. I don't like playing guys against the Lakers. It's just such a tough matchup. And 8,800 is a kind of a steep price tag for SGA. We were playing him when he was 6,800, low sevens, mid sevens. Now this is kind of too high for me.
Way more fun. Yeah.
I'm going to prefer his cousin quite a bit tomorrow. He's all the way priced down, I believe, 3,800 on FanDuel. So we should definitely consider it.
He'll be popular. I don't care. And I'm not like some massive chalk donkey, but like I love good chalk. I feel like Mikhail Alexander is a guy that I'm going to want in a lot of lineups tomorrow. I was very curious what that tag would be when that Lonzo news came out today.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what him and Bruce Brown Jr.'s ownership come in at. They're both Bruce Brown Jr. 3,500, put up 34 fantasy points today, and Mikhail Alexander Walker 3,800. So it'll be an interesting ownership game to play to see who comes up on top throughout the day. I think it's the daily Buddy Hield segment. Priced at 5K. He put up 28 fantasy points. He got 11 shot attempts.
Put
up 6 threes.
Nope.
Buddy Hield's gonna have a 40-point fantasy game someday.
No, he's not. What, someday? You know when that day is going to be? When he's in the G League and G League ends up getting DFS. Like that's when the Oklahoma product comes to play, is when he gets run against these garbage games that don't matter. I think that might be part of the issue, is he's not getting garbage run, and Sacramento hasn't been down 20 for him to come in off the bench and just put up 45. Like, I don't know. It's just so weird in this starting lineup, him not getting any of the usage, not making anything, not really filling up the box score at all. Part of it is, though, the emergence of Harrison Barnes. I mean, this is a guy that I played pickup ball with at Iowa State when he was 15, 16 years old, just murdering us. It was so funny. But he's originally from Ames, Iowa, for those of you guys who don't know. But he was just an unbelievable person to watch, and kind of went through the ups and downs when he was at North Carolina, being the #1 high school product coming out of that class, and then just he won a title with Golden State, kind of bounced around a little bit, but like this is the best version of Harrison Barnes I've probably seen since that Golden State title team, when he was a nice piece for Golden State. So with Buddy Hield, it's just hard for me to get on that when Harrison Barnes is at a small forward position where I can plug him in some lineups and get just ride the wave, I guess. Not that he won't garner ownership, but yeah, Buddy Hield will get going one of these days. But one guy that I'm looking at down there at the bottom, he had a tough outing last time, but Cam Reddish at 4,500. I expect him to garner some ownership, but I like that Phoenix game. I know Phoenix is a lot better defensively. Again, Chris Paul, for whatever reason, that might be something I look into a little bit tonight to figure out how Chris Paul just affects some of these teams. He did it at Oklahoma City last year, and then this year, they're just so much better defensively. I know they got the doors blown off them last game, but yeah, I'm definitely going to have some interest still in Cam Reddish against that Phoenix Suns team. So anybody else?
Yeah, I think we can definitely consider Eric Bledsoe and possibly JJ Redick, and depending on what that New Orleans starting lineup looks like. Bledsoe's guy, I expect him to get more ball handling duties with no Lonzo Ball there. 5,300 makes for a fine price tag. And hopping over the DK, Bledsoe comes in at 5,800. That's a fine price tag for Bledsoe as well. Other options to consider over there in DK, I think we can consider Josh Jackson, shooting guard, 4,500. Makes for a fine option. I think we can potentially also consider where'd he go? I think we can consider $3,300 Bruce Brown Jr. over there as well. Agreed. Anyone else who stands out to you on DK pricing?
That kind of covers it. Stands out in a bad way because I've been trying to throw in a couple of fades here and there. If you play Hamidou Diallo tomorrow, If you play him at that increased tag, what is he, 5,600 over on FanDuel? Just you're not going to like any of my analysis going forward because I have no interest in that. He's been shooting a little bit above board, and so I'm going to be getting off there. I don't know what his tag is over on DK, but it can't be any more ridiculous than what it is over on FanDuel at 5,600. So no interest there. You've got a pivot of Tyrese Halliburton, 5,400, who continues to play in that 28 to 30 minute range. So somebody that can pop it upside at some point again here too. But otherwise, I'm ready to keep moving.
Let's do it.
Nice. And before I do, the NBA packages starting at $4.95 per week. All you got to do is go to awesemo.com/joinnba. Also, going back to the YouTube deal, we're at 48,000 YouTube subscribers, making the push for 50K. 50K. I know I'm new to the game. I'm new to the game here at Awesemo, but it's just an unbelievable brand that everybody's been able to keep going. Like, I can't believe how great the quality of the analysts between Adam Shearer, between Greg Ehrenberg, between like everybody that's been just riding this wave up to the top to 50K. So please click the subscribe button and keep us moving up in an going up. So it's been a fun thing to track. So hopefully we get there here before the Super Bowl. But yeah, go down and click that subscribe button for us. Over at small forward, starting over on FanDuel again, Kevin Durant 10-1. Nuclear just went completely nuts. He's pretty good at basketball, and you should continue to play him. He's underpriced for the role that he is on this team, probably 10-1. Obviously, New York, it's going to be a little bit slower pace than what we saw today. I mean, that game just was him and Jokic just going at each other. It was enjoyable. Not that they were guarding each other or anything, but like it was the Jokic and Durant show, and it's fun to see him. It sounds like he's going to be playing on this back-to-back. So again, keep track of the news, but it seems like systems are going to be go for him for the first back-to-back, I think, in a while. So I'm excited to see that coming off of all of his injuries. 9,900 LeBron James, who basically got to rest the entire fourth quarter as they blew the doors off Houston today. Kawhi Leonard, 9,200 against the Pelicans. I do not mind that number. I think he's the more fantasy relevant guy between him and Paul George going forward, even if the box scores haven't really shown that up to this point. Maybe if he got the mask off his face, that might help him shoot a little better. So anyway, who are you looking at the top end of small forward?
Three great options, but I'm going to like KD. As long as Kyrie Irving is going to be away, I think I can write KD for quite a bit. 10-1 seems like $1,000 too cheap over there on FanDuel. But I think that LeBron and Kawhi make for fine pivots. They could easily outscore KD in the sense, let's say if Brooklyn blows out the Knicks, KD might not need to play the fourth quarter. Keep in mind, it's a back-to-back. So maybe there's some minutes monitoring Steve Nash does, but Kevin Durant said he plans to play tomorrow. I like KD. Gordon Hayward, 7,800 was exceptional last time against the Knicks, put up 42 fantasy points. You'll take 42 fantasy points at that price tag. I think we can also consider Brandon Ingram, 8,800.
What a great recommendation. What a great recommendation. I wanted you to do it. I omitted him on purpose.
He's just a steady 45 fantasy, 40 low 40s. He can get you 50 fantasy points. I think we can definitely consider that. And we know what his upside can definitely be. RJ Barrett just gets the Thibodeau minutes upwards of high 30 minutes. You'll take that at 6,300. And in terms of value, Josh Jackson checks in at 4,800. And keep in mind, Monty Williams is going to change. He's considering a change in the starting five. It might include a Cameron Johnson insertion. Maybe Jay Crowder goes to the bench potentially. That's what I'm considering might happen. Cam Johnson comes in at 4,300. And I like Cam Johnson. He's a sharp shooter. He was very, very good in the bubble for them. He's kind of started off slow this season, but if Cam Johnson's going to get 30 minutes, I'll take a $4,300 Cam Johnson.
I love it. Yeah, Dario Sarge might be the other candidate for that, and he's at 3,800, 20 minutes. He's generally come off the bench there too, but yeah, Cameron Johnson would be an awesome play there in that spot. Left the Brandon Ingram call. You're so sharp. I can't believe it. Going down further, I'm still going to have some interest in Gordon Hayward, 7,800. As long as that Dallas game goes, that Charlotte and Dallas game, Gordon Hayward is unbelievable. I can't believe how good his rates are on the Charlotte team. I love all the things that I've seen with him back when he was in Boston, when he had Jaylen Brown, Kemba Walker, and Jason Tatum off the floor, he's just like a high 1.4, 1.5 fantasy point per minute guy. And he's starting to just kind of like get on a little bit of a heater. Like he can kind of get those heat checks going. Honestly, I was surprised that he ended up only finishing with 43.75 up against New York the other night. I guess it got a little out of hand, but he was really, really hot there early. I think he had 28 first half points, something close to that, like real life points, not fantasy points. So somebody to go back to. I'm kind of glad that number didn't completely go ballistic, because otherwise you would have seen a big increase in his price tag. So still depressed down there a little bit at 7,800 on both sites. Working our way down, I did say Harrison Barnes earlier. This is a different kind of Harrison Barnes that we're watching right now. 37 minutes last game, 30 points, 8 boards, 44.6 FanDuel points. So somebody that I'm going to have a ton of interest in for those late hammer games. That Portland-Sacramento game should be moving. So yeah, Lillard, McCollum, Barnes, Buddy Hield, if you're so inclined to feel very, very risky, as long as he's healthy enough to go. But if Buddy Hield sits, not that it would add any more to that 37 minutes, but that's for sure something that is going to be a big upgrade to that game, and something that you want to be a part of. So Josh Hart at 5,400 on DraftKings, another guy that I kind of have my eye on. Might be able to handle a little bit of ball handling duty. He's done it in the past, but for me, one of the impressive things about him is, for an undersized guy at small forward or power forward, he boards the ball really well. So he has double upside every time he steps on the court, and he's had a couple of those already this year. So somebody that I'm going to have some interest in down there too, in that Pelicans game without Lonzo Ball, where I think everybody's rebounding rate should have a slight tick up. So anybody else that you're thinking about?
No, I think we could definitely consider in terms of value options. I had mentioned Josh Jackson earlier. Maybe what's his name? Maybe Marcus Morris. He played 25 minutes against Chicago last time. Yeah, Marcus Morris.
Man. Oh man.
Yeah, if he doesn't pull his antics like his twin brother did and doesn't get tossed, I think we can consider Marcus Morris for sure.
They both have antics. They're just who they are. You know what you're getting. You want them on your team. You don't want to play them, I think, is kind of the way that goes.
As Charles Barkley says, you don't want to mess with the Morris boys. So.
Yeah, them in Phoenix, they were something else. So Mikhail Bridges, last guy that I'll kind of give the perk. He burned everybody the other night against Washington. So ended up just playing 24 minutes in that blowout, just bad game in general. Only 23 FanDuel points coming off of a big outing. So I love going back to the well on some of these guys that people will be down on. Again, watch that starting lineup come out. If Cam Johnson's the guy, I'll have a lot less interest. But again, Jay Crowder, if he ends up going to the bench, sweet, and it would still be Mikal Bridges. I got to think he's going to still be in the starting unit because of how good his defensive prowess is. So that's kind of it at small forward, don't you think?
I agree. Power forward position. Let's start it.
Yeah, sitting at the top, as always. My favorite tournament play on the board pretty much every single time here until he decides to put up an 80 spot. Giannis Antetokounmpo, sitting at 10,600 over on DraftKings, 11,000 over on FanDuel. The problem is, as always, it's how many games can you play against Detroit? How many times have they played Detroit this year? I feel like all they did was play Detroit. Yeah, back-to-back games against Detroit, and then they played Cleveland and Orlando. They just haven't played anything like super competitive here. And eventually, I mean, maybe this isn't necessarily the spot to say, yeah, this is going to be competitive. But all of their games just seem to get a little bit out of hand in some spot. He hasn't played over 36 minutes in his last 5 games, last 5 outings. So doesn't matter. He's Giannis, and he has some of the highest rates in fantasy basketball. So I'm going to have him in a lot of lineups still. I just refuse. I'm stubborn. So I'm going to keep paying for it. Kevin Durant over at 9,400 on DraftKings. He's power forward only over there. So 9,400 should be one of the most popular dudes to play. Just play him. It's not that hard. Make it happen. Julius Randle, 9,100, New York. He's kind of been sliding down a little bit. It's been interesting. The Knicks have not been playing good ball the last 3 after everybody, including Wob, were going nuts for the Knicks and riding the wave. It's come crashing down to earth the last 3 with them failing to break 90 points in a single game. I'm starting to think that maybe Julius Randle shouldn't be the focal point of that offense, but that's just a guess. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Talk to me a little bit about the guys up top, and if you have any concerns on Randle.
I don't have any concerns on Randall. I think last game they just got blown out, and 30 minutes of Randall. I expect him to play 38 minutes, 36 minutes, whatever Tibbs wants to give out Randall. Randall's going to get it. I think Giannis makes a fine option. 10-6 on DK, 11K on FanDuel. Could be the easily the highest scoring player on the slate by north of 10 points. It could definitely happen, and where you're going to need him. You already put up 43 real life points against Detroit in a matchup earlier in the season, so that definitely happened. And then Detroit's kind of been a team that doesn't get blown out too easily. They'll hang in there until like the 3-minute, 2-minute mark, and then the other teams will hit some threes, and they'll become a double-digit deficit loss. So keep in mind with Giannis, just know the blowout could be on the table, like we saw last night again. Or was that last night? Yeah, last night against Orlando. Yep. So that could definitely happen. Anthony Davis, 9,800 in a pure savings play. I always am a big fan of rostering Anthony Davis. I always tend to be over the field on him. Zion Williamson against this Clipper matchup, obviously in very interesting play. It's just his minutes are 34 and are on like the low 30s and whatnot, and he's just not performing at the greatest of rates. I think we could project him in this matchup around the mid 30 fantasy points. I'm okay with that. Not awfully too high on it. We'll see what ends up happening with news and whatnot, and what that starting lineup might look like with Zion with Lonzo out. Yeah. I think maybe we'll see maybe a small bump. I have to look into the rates and whatnot, what the off-on numbers are. Mm-hmm. Porzingis is 8K. I'll be off of Porzingis on FanDuel especially. I think there's some better options to save money on and pay up for. Mm-hmm. I think we can always consider a $6,100 Blake Griffin. He played 30 minutes.
Don't always consider that. Yeah. No.
But Blake Griffin spot, yes. In the spot, I think we can definitely consider Blake Griffin. Who stands out to you on DK that has power forward eligibility? I know you mentioned KD, and it seems like just an absolute smash play, but KD seems to garner quite a bit of ownership over there.
Well, you can't play everybody owned. I do definitely know that. But Blake Griffin, I like that call. To piggyback on top of that, we just saw Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic, who I just never get that name right. Nikola Vucevic completely destroy the Bucks down low, which I found to be pretty interesting. And in a loss, in a kind of like semi-blowout loss. So I'm going to have definitely some interest in Blake Griffin there too. There's really just no other horses to really look at. Like there's unlimited potential for him to go out and just get a hold of a game at some point. So I'll continue to invest there too. Somebody over on FanDuel that I kind of have my eyes on is Naz Reid at 4,700 if Karl Anthony Towns is ruled out. We don't know what that situation is going to be with his wrist, but he's a high fantasy point per minute guy. And what I found really, really encouraging was the 29 minutes of run last game. So he was getting a little bit of extended minutes there. I'm not sure if Ed Davis was in foul trouble or not. That's something I'll have to go back and take a look at as well. So you go and check the on-off tool, and I'll go check the popcornmachine.net, and we'll meet in the middle on our analysis tomorrow for each other. Doesn't help the people out too much. I apologize. So, but Naz Reid 4,700, somebody that I'm definitely going to have interest in tomorrow, so long as Karl Anthony Towns is out. Juancho Hernangomez still 4,400. I'm not going to go chasing that big game there. His rates are coming back to earth, even though he's getting 22, 27 minutes his last two. So pass there as well. And then kind of one other piece to look at. So I know that we have Porzingis coming back, but I could see Porzingis playing a little bit of 5 here too and doing whatever else. James Johnson is somebody that, like, if you needed like the pure punt, I guess his price came up to 4,200 on FanDuel. So perhaps not. Actually, I lied. That was an absolute lie. So I'm taking that one back. We're gonna flip it, zip it, and reverse it, or whatever that is. Yeah, that's nerdy. That's all I have for you. 7,700 Zion Williamson. My last call, power forward. Love it. Love having Lonzo off the floor. Again, just a little bit of a rebounding uptick for every single person in that lineup with Lonzo Ball off the floor. Not that Lonzo Ball, his assist rate had gone down quite a bit with Brandon Ingram taking a lot more of the ball handling duties this year. So, but Zion 7,700, just waiting for that big game. And John Collins, last guy, 7,200. So guys more up in that mid-range. I like that little mid-range of like 7K on FanDuel. That's a very intriguing spot for me at the position. But that's about all I got for you for right now. Do not play Do not play Jared Vanderbilt. I can't believe he was popular the other day. Like, what is going on? I mean, he's just not going to play over 20 minutes. And I get that he's a high fantasy point per minute guy, but it's just so hard for him to get on top of those minutes. I just don't see it happening. So don't play him. He's my fade there. Anybody else, Rinpack? I just went on a roll there.
No, definitely. I think you had some valid points. I know you were talking about James Johnson, but I think a fine pivot is Dario Sarge. Just keep in mind what Monty Williams was going to do with that starting lineup. I'll be shocked if they end up starting Dario Sarge in that lineup, especially maybe they do it against Atlanta to match up with the Collins Capella front court.
I could see it.
And Sarge comes in at 3,800 on DK, 4,100 on FanDuel. I think we can go there. But Robert Covington, 4,800 against Sacramento. Great value play, I think, personally, for Portland in that Sacramento matchup. I like that quite a bit. I think we can consider a 7K John Collins on DK. I think that I like that a decent amount. I know Collins hasn't been playing many minutes and because they just have been kind of in blowouts, but I think there's going to be an eruption spot coming for Collins sometime soon.
I love the call. Let's take it home. Going to center, bringing it up to the top on FanDuel. Karl Anthony Towns is at 10.5. He is the highest priced center on FanDuel. I didn't know if you had seen the center position yet. By 3,300 hashtag math. He is by 3,300. He is by far and away the most expensive center on the board. So center is going to be a really, really fun position over on FanDuel tomorrow that you're going to have to kind of get right because everybody's going to be jammed in ownership in those little middle tiers, and especially if Cat gets ruled out, it's going to get interesting. There's going to be some value to be had at the center position just by default because everybody's lower priced at that position. Jared Allen, 7,200, somebody that played all right in the last couple, but like today, 35 minutes with Kevin Durant on the floor. I'm assuming I'm going to go back and look, but his rates are definitely down the last two games, as is his fantasy production. So that's that's a big price to pay now that Kevin Durant's the guy who's the main ball handler and starter of the offense in Brooklyn. Jonas Valanciunas, 6,900. Steven Adams all the way up to 6,800, which is kind of eye popping, but playing those mid 30s minutes, somebody to maybe take a couple of shots on. Talk to me a little bit about center.
I'm going to love Cat if he plays. I hope he does play. I think you can easily project Cat for low 50 fantasy points in this Memphis matchup. I'm going to try to find a way to spend up for him there. I hope they just rule him questionable. And if he's ruled in, even if that game is starting post lock, I'm going to like Cat I think ownership will come in at a discount. Cat's just when he plays and he's playing north of 30 minutes, he's just one of the most consistent guys in the league. I'm a big Cat fan in terms of DFS to roster.
And to add to that too, he had the minutes limit last game and played 37. So let that be known. The minutes, if he comes out and plays, there should be no apprehension that he's going to be full go. He'll be full go. So continue on.
Keep in mind, Yusuf Nurkic is questionable with a quad injury. If he is out, I do expect Enes Kanter to start over there, and Kanter at 50 will become a very enticing play for sure. Mm-hmm. But there,
go ahead. Sorry, no, it stuttered there for a second. Continue on. You're doing great. It just froze on me for a second. Keep on rolling.
No, they played Carmelo Anthony at the 5 last time out. I don't expect that to happen. Mm-hmm. So keep that. That's what Terry Stotts did. I think it could happen again. Not too sure. I think we could consider a $6,700 DeAndre Ayton, where he really disappointed us last time out against a very favorable Washington matchup. Ayton has been very disappointing to start the year. He's shown spurts within the games of nice upside, but man, he hasn't scored north of 40 fantasy points this year yet. And I don't think that's gonna last for too long. I think there's going to be a spot where he does pretty well against. So just trying to buy low on DeAndre Ayton. Maybe the field is off of him. Rashaan Holmes was phenomenal when he just came in at 0.1% owned. Played 36 minutes. I will like Rashaan Holmes even more if Nurkic is out.
Yeah, I think that's one of the big focal points of this slate. So I guess something we'll get into more as we keep going. We always try to incorporate a little bit of theory into it, but that's the Night Hammer game. That's both of those both of those center plays, both Cantor and possibly Hassan Whiteside, if Holmes doesn't go, they become awesome plays. I would have interest if Nurkic and Holmes both got ruled in. I would have interest there. If they both get ruled out, you obviously just want to get as much Whiteside and Cantor as you can. So that's something to keep in mind for your roster spots, especially on DraftKings, where you can kind of like make more pivots. It's not a direct, like, you have to play somebody who's 2K less over at center if Holmes gets ruled out by playing Whiteside and just eating that salary. But on DraftKings, there's definitely going to be pivots and options that you can make work. So tool around with that a little bit, especially if you're MMEing. Make sure that you can kind of like leave enough salary to get off of them. But like if Holmes plays, you just saw what he is capable of doing. 35 minutes and just going completely nuts. And yeah, I'll have a lot of interest if he decides to play. Somebody down there, I know this is just another gross spot, but if we're going to have interest in Blake Griffin, you got to have a little bit of interest in Mason Plumlee, 5,900 over on FanDuel. I'm not like in love with it, but there's ways to get a little bit different, especially over on FanDuel. If he were to outperform and like spike some kind of a rebounding upside, I'm not saying that he's Aaron Gordon or that he's Vooch, but like, somebody that could definitely still spike an upside and is going to get the run there if that game stays remotely close. And Al Horford, 5,500, definitely going to be my fade down there. I didn't enjoy today having too much of him. And against the Lakers, that's just a definite no for me, as they've been pretty darn good against centers. So anybody else to round out the position?
I think we can always consider Mitchell Robinson, especially on FanDuel, just because those blocks have more value over there. Mitchell Robinson can easily pick up 5-6 blocks, similar to Jared Allen as well. So those are some potential low-owned options. I wanted to ask you, any interest in the Washington center situation? They're going to need him against Gobert. We have Robin Lopez. We have Mo Wagner. Do you have a strong lean on either way, either Wagner or Robin Lopez?
Yeah, not really. I mean, I played Mo Wagner just out of necessity for value the last slate. You could maybe make the case that that's a thing that you could do. Yeah, not a ton of interest there. I mean, where's Washington on this slate? I don't see Washington.
Did I mess this up?
Yeah, I don't think Washington's on the slate. Honestly, that's the first time either one of us have ever done this. So
you know what? That game got postponed.
That's what it was. Okay, I was gonna say you might have saw that and taken note of that earlier, but I played Mo Wagner as a little bit of a punt before. But honestly, you know what? We're 3 weeks into NBA basically now, and that's the first time that's happened where we recommended a play who wasn't on the slate. So if you had the over under at 21.5 days, cash your tickets on the under. You just got it. So anybody else that we're looking to finish up with at center that's on this slate?
Well, keep in mind that game has been postponed, so forget what I was saying about Wagner and Lopez.
I had great analysis, though. It was great. It was best analysis I gave all day.
I love Karl Anthony Towns. I love Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is $9,000 on DK. Come on, like $9,000 Anthony Davis. He hasn't been that cheap in a long time. So give me Cat, give me AD. Let's ride.
Let's ride. And with that, we are done with today's edition of the Slate Starter. Went a little bit longer, 38 minutes today, but hope that you got something great out of it today. If you could, again, on the way out, just hit subscribe, hit the like button, and we're just going to keep this ship rolling. We'll see you again tomorrow. Good luck to you. Rinpack, any final words?
Good luck, everybody. Check out all the Awesemo.com programming and content, and make sure to follow @Awesemo NBA to be on top of all the news throughout the association that happens. Thanks for joining us again.
All right, and with that, we are out. Good luck, everybody.